I spent a weekend with one of the most notorious killers in Texas. So in my early 20s, I spent a lot of time in South Texas in women's prisons units helping people find forgiveness and second chances at life. And on this one particular weekend, when we arrived, the correctional officers informed our team that there was a new inmate on the premises. She was only 17 years old and had been tried and convicted as an adult for a very violent crime. And because I was the youngest person on our prison team, they voted me to be the one to work with her because she was young, I was young, and she might relate to me and open up to me. Now, I had a rule for myself when I worked with these women to never look up their crimes. I didn't want it to affect my judgment about them or to affect my willingness to help them, so that was just a rule that I always kept. So the correctional officers, they walked me down this long corridor into a classroom where sitting at the table was Erin Caffey. Now, Erin Caffey is a tiny thing. Now, I'm a tiny person, and I dwarfed her. She's very small, very timid, very soft-spoken, rarely will look you in the eye. And my first thought whenever I lay eyes on her and I sit down across from her is, how can somebody this small and this timid possibly be convicted as an adult for a violent crime? What violence is she possibly capable of? Little did I know. We started talking and we kind of started to get to know each other a little bit, cracked a few jokes. I tried to get her to lighten up. And eventually she did start kind of opening up to me, and she started volunteering some details about her version of what had happened the night of her crime. And I have to admit, even though I had a rule to really try not to know what people had done, I was very curious because, again, here's this tiny little thing. She's 17 years old, looks scared to death, and she's in this facility. And well, her version of the events that took place the night of the crime led me to believe that she was a victim in all of it and that it was really out of her hands. She couldn't stop it, and she's haunted by it, regrets it every day of her life, and she just wishes she could take it all back. And y'all, she was so convincing, just absolutely convincing, that I truly believed that she was innocent. She had somehow gotten mixed up with the wrong crowd, was wrongly convicted. And I started brainstorming in my head, like, how can I raise awareness about this and help her get out? Little did I know, in my naivety, that this young lady was a psychopath. She was very cunning, very manipulative, and the small, mousy, timid, soft-spoken thing was very much a calculated tactic to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And my time with her started a long season of my life of panic attacks and nightmares, and I'm going to tell you more about that in part 2. I spent a weekend with one of the most notorious killers in Texas, part 2. Trigger warning, this video does include descriptions of graphic violence. So after I'd spent about an hour alone with Erin Caffey, listening to her tell her version of the night of the crime, I had become genuinely convinced that she was innocent and had been wrongfully convicted. I was almost even outraged that she was there. I was like, what idiots put this poor, tiny little thing behind bars with all these adult criminals? But y'all, in a split second, the entire energy of the room changed. Erin was sitting across the table from me. Her shoulders were slumped forward and her head was down, and she was just kind of talking to me like this. And then all of a sudden, I'm leaning in, trying to hear her, and she does this. She locks eyes with me, and my stomach drops. Now, I told you in part 1 that she was a sheep in wolf's clothing. Well, I'll tell you, in that second, the wolf showed up in her eyes. The hairs on the back of my neck stood straight up, and I had this horrible, just sick feeling that, like, I'm in a predatory environment now. I finished the session with her, trying to keep my cool, even though at this point my body is just crawling with the creeps, And I finished the session. I leave the prison, get in my car, and I go to my hotel room for the night. And I just sit in that hotel bed just processing, what did I see? And I told you I still had that rule for myself that I don't look up the crimes of people I work with. And I didn't. I rolled over, watched a little TV, and I fell asleep. But I didn't stay asleep long, y'all. I was woken up by this horrific panic attack. I'd had a nightmare about her eyes, those eyes, those dark, black, shark eyes looking at me. I had a dream about her face contorting and just evil surrounding me and being in the room with me. So I broke my rule. I looked her up, and it turns out that Erin Caffey organized, masterminded, and participated in the slaughter of her family. Her 2 elementary school-aged brothers were murdered with swords. Her mother, Penny, was shot multiple times and was nearly beheaded with the same sword. Her father, Terry, was shot multiple times, including several rounds to the face, but he actually survived the attack. Erin and her 3 accomplices lit the house on fire and fled the scene, and they were found and arrested the next day. And as for how it personally affected me, I truly believe that something dark and evil followed me home from the prison that night, and it stayed with me for years after that. I was haunted by night terrors, by nightmares, panic attacks, sleep paralysis, shadow figures. Not everybody can say that they have genuinely looked into the face of evil and had it look back into you, but I did, and it has never left me. So my video about spending a weekend with one of the most notorious killers in Texas is going viral currently. And so I wanted to answer this comment that says they wanted to know how I overcame it. And I'm sure what you're referring to is the nightmares, the sleep paralysis, and what I believe was a demonic attachment after the fact. I went through several what I would call spiritual cleansings. I had some friends who were gifted in this area. I went to see them, explained what happened, and we went through several processes of spiritual cleansing that did seem to help some, but man, I mean, still to this day, I struggle with panic attacks, and it all started back then, and I've never truly been able to close that part of whatever it is that opened up, that anxiety, that being prone to panic attacks. I'm what, 10 years after the fact, and I still have them. So there's a part of that that's never gone away, but I have learned how to cope with the panic attacks. I can shut them down a lot quicker now. I do take medication for them now. And still to this day, I still wake up at night with that feeling that something's in the room with me. It's just one of those things. I don't think it'll ever go away, but weirdly, I've kind of just learned to deal with it, and I've learned that even though I may have that feeling and I may have that fear, nothing's probably going to touch me or hurt me. It's just I happen to have a hyper awareness because of what I experienced in that prison. Okay, so my video went viral yesterday about spending a weekend with one of the most notorious killers in Texas, and somebody asks, did I ever spend any more time with Erin Caffey after that day, and do I believe she was demon-possessed when she masterminded the plan? What is my opinion on the case? Look, I am no authority on demonic possession or demonic activity. I can't tell you if somebody was possessed or oppressed. I do believe genuinely that obviously evil was at play, and that there was probably strong evil forces at work in this situation, just given the circumstances and the graphic nature of the crime. What I also can say is that I definitely saw a void in her eyes that gave me the freaking creeps, and I can't explain it. I can't put a name to it, or again give you a definitive, hey, this is a sign of demonic possession. I'm not an authority on that, but did I get the creeps from looking in her eyes and see a darkness there that I can't explain and I don't see in other people? Yes. Also, there is an in-depth breakdown of her personality on a YouTube channel called The Behavior Panel. I absolutely love this channel, and you may be able to gather some more insight as to her potential psychopathy and her pathology, and just personality types like hers. I really encourage you to go watch that if you're curious about Erin and maybe why she did what she did and how she uses her small stature and her soft-spokenness to manipulate people. So check out The Behavior Panel on YouTube, and you may find that really fascinating.
This fucking text message right here changed my life forever. About a year ago now, January 9th, I get a text message telling me to get a DNA test from Ancestry. And I think it's fake. I FaceTime my friend and I'm like, listen to this. And she's like, I swear my gut's telling me this is real. You need to respond. So I respond. And then they write me back. I was shook that they responded. And I let them know that I'd already done 23andMe the year before because it was on sale. And I was hoping I was going to find that I was like secretly exotic or related to royalty, but I'm just English and Irish like I thought I was. They even made a burner account on Facebook to message me and my husband saying I need to get a DNA test from Ancestry. They would not provide me with any sort of proof that this was real. And obviously I called my mom immediately saying, what the fuck? So a little backstory. My parents divorced when I was 9. I was very close with my mom, and she always told me the story that, like, She was an alcoholic, and my dad cheated. My dad was a cheater. So when I called her and she says, I know exactly what you're talking about. I had an affair. I almost fell off my fucking chair. She had an affair with a guy 10 years younger than her when she was in college. They went away for like a weekend or something, and it was a one-time thing, but he even saw her on campus and said, "Is that mine?" And she denied it. This bitch either gaslit herself or thought she was going to take this shit to her grave. Imagine? So I order an ancestry test immediately. It takes about 6 weeks to get my results back, and ding ding, your results are in. I find out that yes, this man is my father, this stranger. So I message him immediately, and he lives in California. He's British. What the fuck? He said my mom sent him a Christmas card when I was 2 years old saying my name in it, and that he's Googled my name ever since. And in 2007, my name popped up, and he saw a picture of me, and he knew immediately that I was his daughter. So he emails my mom wanting to get in contact with me, and she denies it and kind of threatens him and says, please do leave us alone. Do not ever contact me again. She's mentally unwell, and something bad would happen. She might harm herself if she ever finds out. So what did he do? He followed me on social media my entire life. He watched me date my boyfriend, get married, have babies, everything, all from the outside, not able to know me. I'm telling you, this picture freaked me the fuck out. I have so much more. Let me know if you want a part 2.
I will never go hiking again. So back in 2020, I thought it was a great time to, be one with nature. That's fucking bullshit. No, I just wanted some good Instagram pictures, let's be honest. I don't know what I was thinking, because I am not the most athletic person. No, I'm not athletic at all. But in my brain, I processed, I'm just walking up the mountain. I'm not running, I'm just walking. I'll be fine. I did absolutely no preparations for this at all. I did no research. I didn't know how many miles I was gonna walk. I didn't bring any good supplies. I brought goldfish in a water bottle. Goldfish in a water bottle. I went with 3 people. I went with my best friend, my husband, and my husband's best friend. And keep in mind, all 3 of them are fit. They work out on the regular, okay? I, on the other hand, the only workout I do is TikTok dances, okay? Take your feet out of the frame! Anyways, the day comes, we drive like 2, maybe 3 hours to West Virginia to go to Old Rag Mountain. It's Old Rag Mountain, and we have to park the car and we have to start walking to where the trail begins. So the trail doesn't begin where the parking lot is. You have to walk like a mile or so to get to the trail where the mountain begins. I'm not even walking on an incline, okay? And I'm already out of breath and sweating profusely, okay? We didn't even reach the trail to start walking up that mountain. At this time, I am having second thoughts, and I am thinking that maybe I am not prepared for this. Me being a people pleaser, I didn't want to disappoint anybody and say I didn't want to go, and I wanted to go back to the car, and I wanted to go home. So I just pushed through it. Everyone's walking way ahead of me. I'm walking as slow as a grandma with freaking arthritis in her shins. It is bad. It is bad, okay? It is way worse than bad. It is shkla. I don't know what that is. We're walking up this mountain, and it's been like 20 minutes, and I've taken like 15 breaks, okay? 15 breaks in 20 minutes. That should tell you something. And I keep asking them, how many more minutes until we get there? They're like, oh, 10 more minutes. 10 minutes later, we're not there. At this point, I can barely breathe, okay? I'm literally breathing like... An hour and a half goes by, and we're still walking up this mountain, and we're not there. This is sad to admit, but I did start crying. I asked them, how many more minutes until we get there? They're like, it's 10 more minutes, Bella. You can do it. You can do it. I see a lady walking down the mountain. I'm like, excuse me, ma'am, how many more minutes till we get up there? She's like, about an hour. Finally get there after 3 hours. Worst experience of my life. It wasn't worth it. Great view, though, but not worth it. No. Okay. So I've been seeing a lot of proposal videos online. It's beautiful. It's well planned. People are there. People are crying. And then it got me thinking about my proposal. How awkward. how cringe and, well, unique it was. Definitely unique. I bet you there's no proposal like mine. So some of y'all know this. I got married my senior year of high school. That should give you some insight on how this proposal is gonna go. Little background, I met my husband when I was a sophomore in high school, 2016, and we got married when I was a senior in high school in 2018. So we already decided that year we were going to get married. He had already asked for, you know, my mom and dad's blessing, and he got it. The day of the proposal, well, night of the proposal arrives, and I'm out with my friends shopping. Ben shows up at my house at 8 o'clock at night. My daddy opens the door, he's like, "Hey Ben, what you doing?" "Oh, I'm here to propose." He didn't even tell my parents he was gonna propose that day. He is so bad at planning stuff. This is why I'm in charge of planning stuff. My dad's like, "Okay, come in." While I'm out, he sets everything up at my house, and my dad calls me to come back home. This is where it starts to get really cringy. So I open the door, I already start seeing rose petals leading to the back patio that I have. People are already filming me, you know, filming the whole experience. That's cute. That's cute. That's good. We're doing good so far. So far. I get to the back patio and there's 3 candles lit, which is not bright enough for nighttime. So I can barely see. There's Ben standing next to my outside table that I have, and I walk over to where he's at, and on I'm sorry, okay. And on the table was Chick-fil-A chicken fucking nuggets, spelling out, "Will you marry me?" Do I need to say more? I turn and I look at Ben and I'm like, and then proceeds to say, "I remember when we first started dating, you told me that if I ever were to propose to you and I didn't have Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets, you would say no." This motherfucker took it literally, bro. I didn't mean it. Chicken nuggets, bro. Chicken nuggets. And he didn't have enough chicken nuggets to spell out the full letter U, so he just put U. Obviously, I said yes. We're still married, happily married for 4 years now. So I have a video of the proposal, but no, you cannot see it. It's too awkward. Definitely unique.
What happens to mass shooters in prison? Well, I've only really met 3 when I was on the inside. What I noticed is that one who did his killing for a cause, what he thought was righteous in his mind, he was accepted by certain religions and organizations as an extremist, and they kind of supported him and had his back. Now, there's also been another one who just went and started blasting innocent people and killed about 6 or 7 of them. And I promise you, every single day of his life in that prison cell, he was tortured. The guards spitting in his food, inmates beating the shit out of him, extorting him, going to his families on the street and extorting his families on the streets. It's very weird how prison politics could favor one person and then torture another. But I guess it's all where your heart's at the end of the day. It's all nasty, disgusting behavior, hurting innocent people. So they get no respect from me no matter what. Stay out, stay free.
So my mom decided to visit me, but the problem is my roommate's a girl. So she came over for dinner and she wouldn't stop talking about how pretty my roommate was. Throughout the course of the dinner, she's like really observing me and the roommate. And I can see that she's kind of getting suspicious about it. So me noticing this, I'm like, "Ma, I know what you're thinking, but I can assure you, we're just roommates." Anyways, the dinner passes, and about a week later, my roommate comes up to me and was like, "Ever since your mother came for dinner, I haven't been able to find any of the silver plates." She said, "Now, I'm not saying that she took it, but do you think she took it?" I'm like, "Nah, I don't think so, but I could text her and ask." I texted her and I said, "Ma, I'm not saying that you did take the silver plates from my house, but I'm also not saying that you didn't take them. But the fact of the matter is they've been missing ever since you came." She texted me back about 30 minutes later and she said, "I'm not saying you do sleep with your roommate, but I'm not saying you don't. But the fact of the matter is, if she was sleeping on her own bed, she'd notice them under her pillow."
Do you ever see a picture that just makes your stomach drop? This is a still from an alert that a woman named Alexis Randall got on her phone. It's from a security camera that was set up in her living room, but she's looking at this and she's thinking the same thing you are. She's like, "What's wrong with the picture here? Why did the motion detector go off?" But then look a bit closer, specifically at the bathroom door. This man who was staring at the camera from the doorway. She spots this picture and she immediately panics and calls the police, but by the time they get there, this guy is gone. What really freaked her out even more is that when police got there, they found evidence that the bathroom window had been tampered with. Further security footage would show that the man had crawled through the bathroom window the night before and was hiding in the hallway bathroom all through the night, even while she was in the house. And if you guys are loving Creep Time, make sure to go follow on Insta.
Also, I was riding, galloped onto the road and fell on top of my leg. The impact caused my bone to come through my skin and the pain was absolutely unbearable. Definitely the most painful thing I've ever experienced. I was then quickly rushed to hospital. They did an initial surgery, but I had to wait 2 weeks and transferred to St George's for the specialist reconstruction team to put on this metal frame. And it had to be an external metal frame because the risk of infection, because my bone had gone into the mud, was so high. And the doctors even talked about the risk of amputating my leg due to infection. But I'm just happy that the horse was okay and that I'm now recovering and doing better.
I am never going to the gym again. I will never show my face in the gym again. The most embarrassing fucking shit happened to me! I decided I wanted to go to the gym, you know, be productive, be healthy. Should have just stayed in bed eating a bag of Cheetos, but no, I wanted to be productive. Finished doing laundry and I just went and I grabbed a t-shirt and sweatpants and got in the car, drove to the gym. Get to the gym, I start working out. I'm using the elliptical that's in the middle of the room and the gym's packed. Like 35 minutes into my workout and I'm just getting a whole bunch of people staring at me. I'm like, why are you staring at me? Like, do you recognize me from TikTok? Is that it? Is that I'll sign autographs later? But no, that's not why they were staring at me. Then all of a sudden, while I'm like, as you can see, sweating profusely, this lady comes up to me and she's like, sweetie, you might want to go to the bathroom. Why? I don't have to pee. He's like, you have something stuck on your pants. I what now? Thinking I'm getting recognized on TikTok? No. I had a fucking neon blue underwear stuck to the back of my ass. For about 35 minutes. In the middle of the gym. Excuse me while I go die in a hole now. Thank you.
Story time about my extremely creepy neighbors. So a little background information, I was 12 years old and I was in 6th grade. And my family and I lived in a really small town where everyone knew everyone. But our new neighbors had been building their house next to us for the past 4 years. And finally, when they were done with the house, this house was huge. I mean, probably because there were like 8 people moving into the house. There was the mom, the dad, 4 kids, and their grandparents. So like 8 people. But I was super excited because I was like, okay, this is awesome. I get to meet some new friends. But after 2 weeks of not seeing anybody playing in the backyard or anybody on the school bus, I started to think that their family was super fucking weird. And everyone in our neighborhood liked to gossip, and everyone was saying how they barely see the people who had just moved in. So my mom decided to take one for the team and make some brownies, take them over to the house, and I ended up going with her. So we go up to the house, we knock on the door, and one of the kids came and opened the door, but the dad ran over and grabbed him, like for part 2. Part 2 about my extremely creepy neighbors. So like I said, my mom and I took some brownies over there and one of the kids opened the door, and when he opened the door, he had a bunch of bruises all over his body. The dad came running over and ripped his son from the door and slammed the door in our faces, and all you could hear was him screaming at his son. So my mom and I went to walk away before the door opened, and he was like, sorry, my son knows better than to open the door to strangers. He took the brownies, and then I asked him if I could have a sleepover with one of his daughters, and he was super hesitant at first, but he said that I could only have a sleepover with her if it was at my house and not theirs, which my mom was completely fine with anyways, because she thought that it was a little bit weird that his son had bruises covering his whole body. So that night when she came over to sleep over my house, I asked her how her brother got all those bruises all over his body, and she said that he just fell down some stairs. But after that, we became best friends, and we would literally hang out like 5 times a week, until the one day I knocked on their door to ask if she wanted to come over, and her dad answered the door and said that she was gone. Like for part 3. Part 3 about my super creepy neighbors. So like I said, I became best friends with their daughter, but the one day I went over her house to ask if she wanted to come over, and her dad answered the door and said that she was gone. And when I asked when she would be back, he was like, she went to go live with her mom, so probably never. which was super weird because she never mentioned that she had another mom. So fast forward 2 months, my family and I are sitting around the fire pit when we hear someone scream help. But we weren't sure if that's what we were actually hearing because it was so quiet, and then all of a sudden we heard someone banging on my neighbor's basement door. You know those metal doors that people usually have outside of their house that lead down basement steps? Yeah, well that's where the banging was coming from, so my dad hopped over the fence to see if that's where the screaming was coming from also. And then not even a minute later, my dad hopped back over the fence and it looked like he saw a ghost, but he ran inside, called 911. Because I was so young, the only thing my parents told me about that whole situation was that the girl that I was friends with was still alive and her parents were keeping her in the basement along with 2 of her other siblings. But then we also found out that they weren't even her real parents. They were kidnapped at the hospital when they were born.
This is why you should never go out during witch hour. So in Dominican Republic, a lot of people talk about witch hour and that it's 12 p.m. or 2 to 4 a.m. A little bit of a backstory. My grandmother was always into like paranormal witch stuff, right? And she always would tell us that witches are real, that we need to believe it because we need to know what to do when we see one. So she would say that witches aren't really interested in adults, they are interested in little kids. This is all important for the whole story that I'm about to tell you. So witches actually are more interested in like little kids because they're younger and they're youth, blah blah blah. I thought it was all just a fairy tale. So she said to knock down a witch, you need to say a prayer. She did tell us the prayer. I don't know what the prayer is. Anyways, fast forward. So in Dominican Republic, at least where I'm from the end of February to the end of March, there's always like a carnival going on in the whole town, right? And people go to bed really late and you just party all night. So my friends and I are on our way home and one of us is like very drunk and one of our friends was like passing by in a motorcycle and we're like, hey, can you take her home? And then we'll both just walk. We don't care. Mind you, we were in heels and honestly, Dominican Republic isn't the cleanest place, so you can't really walk around barefoot. So we were in heels and we're like 2 blocks away from home and we're like joking around and we see something jump from one house to another house. I remember that we were like, why are there so many cats outside? Like we've never seen. There was like probably 20 cats. And again, we see this thing jumping from house to house. It jumped like 5 houses. It never once looked at us. And we're like, is that what we think it is? Like we were in shock. Then it stops and it starts jumping between just 2 houses, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Mind you, the houses in Dominican Republic are like some houses, the roof is made out of zinc. Let me show you a picture. This is zinc. So before anyone says it was a dog, it's so hard for a dog to get on a roof unless next door there's a house that has like stairs and it's easier. So all of a sudden this thing stops on one of the houses and is just walking around like it's looking for something. I'm running out of time. Go to part 2.
One time I was working the booty club. This guy got a 1-hour champagne room with me. I am doing my thing, you know, just dancing, chilling, drinking, just him and I. He's tipping good. He's pretty cool, whatever. I excused myself to use the ladies' room because we were drinking a lot of vodka crayons and that stuff runs through me like nobody's business. So I was like, I'll be back in like 5 minutes. I gotta go pee. Then he said, wait, I don't want you to go to the women's room. And I said, well, I really have to go to the bathroom. I don't think I can continue dancing with a full bladder like this. He said, I understand, but I don't want you to go to the women's room and use the toilet. And I just looked at him and I was just, okay. I was like, okay, what? I don't understand. What do you mean? He said, I want you to do your business in this cup. And like, there was like the cups that they brought with like the drinks, like these little plastic cups. He's like, you know, urinate in this cup. And I was like, whoa, what? And he said, I'll pay you extra. And I said, how much extra are we talking? Because like, what, whoa, what, why do you want me to do this? He said, I'll give you $1,000 extra. I was floored. So then I asked, okay, you want me to pee in this cup and then what? What do you want me to like pour it on myself? Because if that's the case, then I'm good. I'm out.
He said, no, I want to drink it. I was like, what? I honestly didn't even know what to say. I was just standing there, like, smiling in, like, disbelief. I was just, okay, what? I said, you want to drink my urine? He said, yes. He said that is one of his things, like, one of his fetishes. I said, well, isn't it normally, like, you just like to be, like, urinated on? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of normal, but drinking? I was like, can't you get sick from that? He said, oh, well, you're so beautiful. I wouldn't care if I got sick from you, blah, blah. I was like, I don't know, like, the risk. And he's like, well, you're clean, right? I was like, of course, but still, like, that's probably not good. And he said, I don't really care. He's like, if I'll pay you extra, however much you want. He's like, if you want more, I'll give you more. I was just, yeah. So I ended up doing it. He was perfectly fine. And I made $1,500. And he drank it all. Took it like a shot. I tried not to fill it up all the way because I didn't want him to drink the whole thing. Like, I literally just tried my best. It was crazy. One of the most bizarre experiences of my life.
What's one of the most embarrassing things that has happened to you while in front of your partner? I'll go first. When I first started dating my husband, this is when we were like in the talking phase, cupcaking and stuff. He was a Lyft driver and I would babysit his son for him. So he was a Lyft driver in San Francisco and the peak hours were, you know, after the clubs would let out. So he would stay driving until like 3 to 5 in the morning and then he would come pick up his son and they would drive home, which was an hour away from where I was living at. But one night he calls and he's like, hey, I gotta come pick up my son because it's dead. There's no rides out here. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. It's like 1 in the morning. I was like, just come here. You can sleep in my house. It's cool. He said, all right. And he was on his way to my house. I had taken the kids to go and eat at this questionable restaurant. It didn't smell too good. Didn't look too cleanly, but I was trying to support the new local taqueria. So I was like, I'm gonna just eat here. Shouldn't have eaten there. So I figured if I drank a lot of water and like vinegar and stuff, then I would be able to get everything out of my system before he got back to my house. He gets there, my stomach's feeling okay, and we start watching a movie in my room. I told him that I was gonna go sleep on the sofa just out of respect for everybody, but I fell asleep in the bed. Not long after, I woke up while pooping in my pants. So I was really feeling him at this time. So I was like mortified. I was like, did I poop on him? I'm trying to quietly turn my flashlight on and check the bed and check to see if there's doo-doo everywhere because it was all over me. I rush to the bathroom and I start to clean myself up. I start to feel really, really sick again. So I sit down on the toilet and I start to poop. While I'm pooping, I start to feel like I'm going to throw up. So I hurry up and I get up and I turn around to throw up into the toilet. But the force from the throw up made me spray poop all over my decorative hand towels. It was on the rug next to the side of the shower and the shower curtain. So I'm in full panic mode. I'm sweating like, oh my God, please don't wake up. I knew it was going to be a wrap if the kids woke up. So I'm trying to be really quiet. I get everything clean. I bleach everything down. I put everything in trash bags, open the windows and everything. I got the fan going and I'm feeling really confident until my stomach drops again. I'm back in square one on the toilet pooping and I start to feel like I'm going to throw up again. So I grab my paper wastebasket and I forgot to put a liner bag inside of it. It had like little grid holes along the sides. So it's spilling over with throw up. There's throw up on my lap. I just said fuck it at this point. I was at a really low moment in my life and I hopped into the shower. The shower was clogging. It was really bad. So I get out and I start to just expel everywhere. I was throwing up into the toilet and expelling from behind onto the floor. I just let go at this point. There was no hope for me. I started to feel really lightheaded at one point, and the next thing I remember was waking up on the bathroom floor. I was completely nude and I was covered in vomit and poop. I can see that the sun is coming up through the little shower window. I could see that the sun was coming through the little window that's like above the shower in the bathroom. So I knew that everybody was going to be waking up soon. I was trying to like move around, but my legs were not working too good. And I had this extreme pain like right here down the side of my face. Like I was hurting. I felt so dizzy and confused and it smelled so nasty. I was thinking there's no way that nobody smells this shit. Even with the door closed and the fan on, like this is nasty. I started scooping with my hands, bare hands, just scooping it and just tossing it down the toilet because this was a fight for my life. I knew by where the sun was at that people were going to start waking up soon. Like the little chihuahua behind us was barking already. I literally just took hella toilet paper and like cleaned everything up really well. And I'm still laying on the floor. I couldn't get up. And I just was flushing everything down the toilet. I noticed that I had like a really huge lump on my head and like a line right here down my face. And I put 2 and 2 together. What I did was I threw up and really exhausted myself and was probably dehydrated and extremely sick, to where I blacked out. And I hit my face on the counter, like right next to the toilet. And I had a concussion. I knew that I needed to go to the hospital, and I knew that I needed to act fast. I hopped in the shower, and luckily right outside of the shower door was our little hall and like linen closet. So I grabbed just a sheet, like a big ass sheet, and I wrapped myself up, and I crept like a mouse to get on the sofa. I figured if he woke up and he went to the bathroom, maybe it wouldn't have been me who smelled like poop in there, you know, even though the whole night was so bad. I was trying to blame it on the kids. Anyways, he didn't come out. I actually went back to sleep, and he woke me up. He was like, "What happened to you?" And I was still trying to look cute with my black eye and knot on my head. I was like, "I don't know, but I don't feel good. Something is really wrong." While I'm wrapped up in a freaking sheet, butt naked on the sofa. He ended up having to take me to the emergency room. I was like, "Lyft driver, I need a ride." So he gave me a lift. I called my family to come and watch my kids, and that's what happened. He took me to the emergency room, and the nurse was like, "What happened? Are you okay? Like, what's been going on?" And he's standing right there. I told her, I was like, "I just hit my head. And that's about it. And I'm dehydrated, really dehydrated." I told him to leave the room to go like call my mom or something, and he left the room, and I was like, "Girl, get him out of here. Get him out now, because shit went down last night and I need to tell you something." So yeah, he left. The nurse was like, "You can go home. She's gonna be here with us all day, getting like IVs and like a CAT scan or some shit." Oh yeah, I didn't even tell him. I didn't tell him for years. And at the emergency room, I found out that I had like a heart condition. So I was like, "What?" So in a good way, this shit happened, because I have a heart condition that I didn't know about back then, and I wouldn't have known about it unless this happened. And when I told him the story, he was like, "Thank God you didn't tell me this, because we would not be here. These kids would not."
Do y'all not realize how silly y'all look commenting under my videos, accusing me of faking an accent or pushing it too hard? And one of you sorry sapsuckers went as far to say that I live in the suburbs. You know what? They had me right here. Because you won't ever catch me living in the suburbs. I'm not going to live so close to somebody they can smell my fart. That just ain't going to happen. And for one, I live in South Alabama. Okay? I'm going to sound like cornbread, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Just because I have all my teeth in my head and I'm not married to my brother doesn't mean I can't qualify for a southern accent. Wrap your little mind around that. I'm fully aware that what I'm about to say is probably going to ruffle some feathers. But if you're a true woman of the outdoors, then this has probably been grinding your gears just as bad as it has mine. If you go on any social media app, you see a lot of women sexualizing themselves to stay relevant in the outdoor industry. If you've got to compensate for your lack of skill or ability in an outdoor sport by showing everybody what the good Lord gave you, your biscuits are hanging out, your bridges are so far up your tail you can pure taste them, then this isn't for you. And if we're being honest, you don't truly like the outdoors. You don't like the reward of a good buck or a good fish. You like the male validation that comes with it. And if you're a true woman of the outdoors, you don't care about all that. You're passionate about it, and you can do it with your clothes on.
These are the most haunted places in South Africa. Starting at number 4, the Tokai Manor House. Tokai Manor House was built in 1795. In 1990, the owner of the house, Frederick Eckstein, was challenged to ride the horse in the living room. He accepted the challenge. While doing the challenge, the horse collapsed down the balcony, and both the horse and the young man did not survive this strange event. To this day, people who visited the house report that there are strange noises of laughter echoing in the manor. There have also been unrealistic images of a man riding on a horseback galloping around the residence. Number 3. Magisfontein Haunted Hotel. This is South Africa's most haunted hotel, infested with demons. There are 2 main ghosts that haunt this place. One called Cathy, that usually stays in her bedroom, and one called Lucy. Every single person who has been inside this place heard at least one of them. Well, to me, Cathy and Lucy are afrits, nothing to be messed with. Number 2, the Kimberly Africana Library. This place is so messed up. Librarians say that if you request a book, a ghost would knock it down a shelf onto the floor for you. No thank you, Habibi. You stay where you are. I can get the book myself. And finally, number 1, the Castle of Good Hope. After reading a lot about this place, I don't think there is any good hope. Centuries of violence in the Cape of Good Hope Castle have left a legacy of disturbed spirits. There have been sightings of 2-meter-long jinns in this place, and rumors from several visitors that they have witnessed a large black dog. Also, when the bell tower is empty, the bell rings on its own sometimes. This place is open for guests. However, no one is recommended to visit this place after sunset. You tell me, what country should I do next?
This is a true horrifying story. This story took place in Kuwait in the year 1997. Weddings back then were very traditional in Arabic countries, and they still are. A wedding bridal party would take place in the bride's house before the actual wedding day. In these bridal parties, usually a female band group are hired to play music. You know, ones that play these ancient Arabic music, the ones with the Arabic drums. A very famous female band group were very known back in the 90s named Tagagat Nura. They got a call one night for an inquiry to play at a bride's party. They negotiated the price, prepared for the party, and then got the address. On the bridal's day, this is Nura by the way, her and her team finally reached the house. The house looked very nice. It had many lights outside. There were children playing, women all dressed up. They were greeted by the bride's mother. They were taken to the guest room so they can prepare before playing the music. At 9 p.m., Nura and her team start playing, and the ladies go wild and start dancing. They did not stop playing the music till 12 midnight. They asked the bride's mom for a short break, but she refused. She told them that she would pay them extra if they continued playing the music. So they keep playing for an extra 2 hours, and they get shocked at how these ladies don't get tired from all this dancing. At one point, the electricity goes completely off, and then they were ordered to continue playing so they can send someone to check the electricity. So Nura and her team continue playing in pitch darkness. The way these women were dancing was kind of off and strange. It was kind of scary in a way that this band has never seen before. So this is what happened next. One of the artists fainted on stage. They immediately stopped playing, picked her up and took her to the guest room. They tried to wake her up, and then she did and started crying from fear. They asked her what was going on, what happened, and she responded by saying one of the women that were dancing had legs that did not look like human legs. They looked like goat legs. And Nura immediately knew what kind of beings were inside this house. They slowly snuck outside through the window and started running for their lives. While they were running through the neighborhood, there was a random guy that was walking. He stopped them and yelled at why they were shouting in the middle of the night. They said that they were playing music for that big house, and an incident has happened. And the man asked, "What house?" The ladies pointed at the house again. The man looked at the house and told them that this house has been abandoned and left empty for 10 years, and that no one lives in that house anymore. They peeked at the house again, and there were no cars, no people, no lights, no children. It was a plain, abandoned, empty house. They thought to themselves that, were they all dreaming the same thing? Was it all just an imagination that they all imagined at the same time? These were jinns that they were playing for. This is in fact a true story. And this is the real picture that was taken inside that wedding. This is a true horrifying story, part 2. In 2012, a video has been released online by a security manager at a hotel. The video took place in a Wingate hotel in the state of Illinois on September 14th, 2003. Other than all the ghost caught on camera videos that were published on YouTube, this is by far one of the real ones. According to him, people began calling in noise complaints to the front desk, with reports of loud screaming coming from the second floor, particularly room 209. So John, one of the security officers, goes there to check that room. And while he was going, there were 2 other people from his team on standby. He reaches close to that room and immediately hears screaming coming from inside. As his team tells him that there was nobody that checked in that room on that day.
It's room 209. Amy says nobody's checked into that room, and there's reports of screaming coming from that room. right now. What's going on, John? There's no one checked into that room. There should be nobody in there. Wait 1 second, John. Amy, are you there? John, just wait. We're gonna get a hold of the police. So, I would wait for the police, John. Amy, John's gonna enter the room real quick just to check, make sure, see what's going on. Wait more. John?
Now we all noticed that the lights outside started to flicker, but did you notice the figure that left that room?